Alright, what's up guys? We are back here today at the Parker Performance YouTube channel, and today we're bringing you a little something different. A lot of the time we're doing performance mods. Today we are going to do a cosmetic upgrade. This is going to be the Galaxy custom steering wheel that we're going to do on Boosted Bobby's car. Let's redo that because of this stupid Today's video is brought to you by our good friends over at Galaxy Customs. Galaxy Customs makes some of the baddest fucking steering wheels on the planet. If you've been in the RTR, seen the RTR, you know that I rock a Galaxy Custom steering wheel. I've got their carbon with their perforated leather with the purple stitching and with the purple stripe on mine. And quite honestly, this has been one of my favorite mods I've ever done to the car because it's literally the moment you get in your car, everything is about the feel. You've got the way that this is ergonomically designed to your hand and the way you grab it, it changed the whole feel from the driver's perspective. So without further ado, we're gonna jump into Boosted Bobby's car. We're gonna install his carbon fiber steering wheel from our friends at Galaxy Customs. Bobby opted for the carbon as well. They offer dry carbon, Alcantara, perforated, you name it, they've got the options. But in this instance, Bobby basically copied my design here, went with the gloss carbon, and he did the red stripe with the red stitching. So let's jump in there and we'll show you guys how to do this on your car. WD-40 to use on the, what was that, the weight? 3/8 drives Milwaukee, converter from 3/8 to 1/2 inch to use a 1/2 inch 24 millimeter for the removing from the steering shaft, 10 mil with a 3-inch extension on a quarter drive ratchet from Milwaukee to remove the battery, 3/8 drive for using this 6-inch extension T20, trim removal tool, 4 millimeter socket with a 6-inch extension so that we can use that to push the blue rubbers in, magnet just to make life easy, the piece, you have to have a 4-inch to use to get the airbag spring unloaded, a second flathead so that you can remove the springs if you have to, and just a random pick just in case you need an additional piece to create any leverage. So with anything that's involving airbags, we always recommend you turn your battery into the off position, right? You're gonna remove your cables. That way there's no chance for this airbag to explode in your face. So you'll need a trim removal tool and a 10 mil to complete this because you need to remove your battery cover, you need to remove this little brown tie down, and then you got a 10 mil in here. Now that we've got the battery disconnected, we'll move inside. The first thing we're gonna do is remove the airbag. Okay, so to remove the airbag, you're gonna need something in the 4-inch range, which is the optimal size, ladies, okay? Because if anything much longer, it starts to get in the way, but you really want something in like the 4-inch range, and it's gotta be really thin, because Yusuf, if you'll show them right here, there's a tiny little hole that we're gonna be going into, okay? And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna use that to go inside, and there's some clamps that we're gonna be pushing, and as a matter of fact, let's show them on the other wheel. Okay, so inside the car, that little hole we're gonna be entering is through the plastics on the back side of the steering wheel, and what you're doing here is you're actually entering into this channel here, and your goal is gonna be to push that arm right there. And when you push this arm, it's gonna release that airbag on the one side. So you're gonna be, again, you're gonna be coming in through the plastic on the hole on the plastic on the side here, and you're gonna be trying to grab that. So you'll feel some resistance and you need to push it. What'll happen sometimes is some guys will go in and they'll be buried into here. You gotta kind of find this wall and travel along that wall all the way until you get back to there. And then like you can see there where it's kind of pushing you back, you just gotta have enough, it can't be so thin, like you can't just use a pick, for instance. You have to have enough of a broadhead on what you're using to grab a hold of that and push it. Push that in. See how the airbag comes loose here? We're gonna do the same thing on this side. We're gonna find the front.
Oh, a little too late, but same process.
Same exact process. So if you wanna come to this side, we'll kind of show you. So we were going in through his hole and we were not able to get anywhere. So I had to reinstall his rear back plastic correctly because my trim tool kept coming into no man's land here.
Okay.
So I had to keep getting it back, and I had to reposition his plastic back to where it was stock. And then when you go in, you want to feel that front face. Here, come in this side here. So when you're coming in blind, okay? But you want to feel that front, and then once you feel the front, you kind of want to move it to the bottom, and then kind of go along that bottom, and then it's going to finally hit. You're going to feel that, and you're going to want to make sure that your broadhead is obviously the thickest part. And that's all you're looking to do is create that. So when you're coming in, sometimes you just have to take your time, and if you get angry, walk away, whatever, and make sure that your rear plastics of your steering wheel are properly aligned, because if not, like what was happening before is my tool was coming in up here and I'm like, there's nothing here, I can't feel his release. Once I re-secured his back plastics back into place, then the angle was correct. And so then I was able to find my way in and find my way to that piece there. All right, so once you've done that clip release on both sides of your airbag, now remember our battery is disconnected, so there's no energized power currently. You're gonna flip this over. You've got a couple things to do here. You've got to disconnect some of your sensors, and then ultimately you've got to get this main stud off of the steering rack here, or not this is the rack, the steering shaft. I believe this is a 24 millimeter, and we'll do that with the tool list. And then once we get it off, we're gonna take it on the bench and we'll work on doing the rest. You're gonna work on 3 clips on the actual airbag and then 1 clip on the steering column itself. And so all you're gonna do is use your trim removal tool, or you can use your same flathead or whatever that you used to get the airbag released. And you're just gonna release these orange clips on the back of these. Now you'll see these are side specific. Black will go to black, yellow will go to yellow. You're just gonna use these orange clips, you're gonna remove them, and once you pull that, then literally these pull right off, okay? Slide that to the side for a moment. On this third clip here, you've got a little red retainer. You're gonna remove the retainer first, and then you'll use that clip right there to remove. Okay, so that's our third one. And then on the airbag now is completely removable. So we're gonna take that, get ready for taking that to the bench. And then the last one is you're gonna use this one here on the steering column. You're just gonna move the wiring harness to the side, use your same trim removal tool, get in there and disconnect that. So now we're gonna rig up our tool for the socket to remove this from the steering column here, and we'll get onto that. Okay, so my suspicions were right. That is a 24 millimeter. In my instance, I have power tools, so I'm gonna use them. Shout out to Milwaukee. This video is not sponsored by Milwaukee, but it could be if they were cool enough to sponsor us. But real talk, shout out. If you work on cars, you really need a Milwaukee, because look, this took like a 2.5 mile journey down the road and it still kicks ass. It takes a beating and doesn't even matter. But anyway, 24 millimeter, we're gonna use, we have ours is a 1/2 inch drive, so we've got a 1/2 inch to a 3/8 adapter onto our Milwaukee fuel. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay, so next you're gonna work on removing the steering wheel. You're just gonna apply some pressure and pull it, and then you're gonna disconnect your wires. Okay, now our clock spring was at 12 o'clock when we started removing it. In the process of removing our wires, it kind of came over here to about 3 o'clock. You don't want to try and reinstall the steering wheel that way. We want to keep it as it was when we removed it. So I'm putting the clock spring back to the noon 12 o'clock position, and then we're gonna go over to the workbench, and we just need to make sure that when we come back that is still in the same orientation. Okay, so once you've transferred your steering wheel to your workbench, my best advice is to have some sort of magnet to go ahead and get your bolts out. You'll need a T20. In this instance, I'm using 3/8 drive T20 with a 3-inch extension so that I can do them from up top here and not be interfering with the steering wheel. We're actually going to be removing all of this, and if you want to take some pictures or some video, if you're doing it at home, take a photo of this. So that way when you're done installing, you know the orientation of where your chrome ones go, where your black ones go, where your chrome ones go. And then that way when you're reinstalling everything, you put it right back in the correct orientation. Okay, so we're literally just gonna start by removing all the T20s. Whoops. And these are all really small hardware, so just keep an eye on them. They will become Jesus clips in the matter of seconds. You'll be like, choom, there they go. My tool was still running into the steering wheel, so we've upgraded to a 6-inch extension. And we'll go into this. Recommending the magnet for is to grab these 3 down in here. Bada bing, bada boom. And then if you set up your hardware kind of like the way you removed it, right? You have the 3 chrome across the top, you have the 1 chrome first, then you have the 2 black, and then you have the 2 chrome. Same on this side, you got the 1 chrome on the top, the 2 black, and then the 2 chrome. So if you set your hardware up on your workbench the way you removed it, that'll give you a little tip or trick, I guess, for reinstalling it. So, all right, so once you removed your hardware on the outside ring, we're gonna start removing pieces, and you're just gonna have to kind of give it some oomph. In Bobby's case, he's already got like some carbon fiber trim, you know, like the eBay stuff, kind of like what I showed you on the RTR. And so that may or may not interfere or cause any issue. Obviously you saw we removed those 3 screws, so the top piece of the rear of the steering wheel has come loose. And then there's just some clips. See how that clip right there? So that rides down inside the channel on the black piece. And so that was what we were fighting to get loose. Once we got that clip loose, bada boom, bada bing. Now Bobby's car is an automatic. So what we're dealing with here is we have our power cords going into the front for his, this side is just his switching, you know, up, down, left, right. And then obviously this is obviously the cord going into his paddle switch for shifting down. So we have to remove both of these harnesses. You won't be able to screw them up when you go to put them back in because it's gray to gray and black to black. 1 and a 2. Maybe. Hold on. Get my fat finger back there. You got a dog. And a 2. Okay, so both harnesses are removed. And like I said, it's going to be black to black, gray to gray. So when you go to put them back in, and then as we remove that top piece, right, what we're going to do is we're going to come set it over here because that's where we removed that from, right? And now what's happened with removing that top piece is we expose the next round of hardware that we have to remove. We're gonna put that there to the side for the paddle shifter. Hey, we're gonna put it with the paddle shifter, how's that? Again, on here we're going to have a harness to disconnect, which on this instance, where'd my flathead go? Just kidding. We're going to use our trim removal flathead to get in here and pull that clip. Bada bing, bada boom. Now, same thing, even though there is 2 black clips, you won't mess it up because this is a much smaller clip than this. Obviously that is going to work. You're going to try and plug that in. It's much smaller, not going to reach, that kind of stuff. So don't sweat it, you're going to be good. Next one, and again, same idea here, we're just gonna be pulling it, and you are gonna be working against some of these clips. So you just have to kind of give it some oomph. Same idea, there was a couple of clips there that were clipped into the back side here. So you just have to kind of give it some oomph to clear those clips. Bada bing, bada boom. Same thing on this side, we have to remove the top section first because that's what's gonna reveal these 2 screws here. So we're gonna start with this. Alright, and then we are removing hardware. I'm going to remove this one. Bada boom, bada bang. And then I'm going to rotate this so you can see from your side. We're literally just going to use our flathead to get into that clip right there. Once it's depressed, we're going to pull it apart. Now, in this moment, you probably want to take another photo for yourself or another video for yourself, or pause this video so you can come back to it, because the orientation of each of these wires is important. When we're going to reinstall all of this on your new steering wheel, you need to be prepared to route this wiring harness up to the top. You're going to be kind of following the arch of the 3 bolt holes there, and this piece with the one with the red, so both of the pieces that we removed while we were in the car, right? Both of those have to come through this top center section. Okay, and then these 2 pieces with the smaller clips, they're going to come out to the side, and then this larger clip is going to come out underneath this bottom of the left side of the steering wheel. Same on this side, is going to come out the bottom of the right side of the steering wheel. So you got the 2 little guys inside the centers, you got the 2 that we removed from inside the car, inside the center of the top, and then you've got your thick boys coming down out of the bottom. So what we're going to do now is we removed everything here on the front. Now we have to remove, you see these colored, I guess they're kind of like a rubber or like a polyurethane or something, and we have to push those out the back, and we're going to do that after we remove the black plastic pieces from the rear. Now that we've removed all the front, all this is just push and pry, and it will come right on out like so. So literally no tools, just, you know, a little bit of pressure. Okay, so that whole rear comes off. Now once that rear comes off, you're left with your wiring harness, right, which we are now going to pull out. Okay, but that's why we took note of all the orientation of where all of the harnesses are going to go and all the plugs, is because we are going to transfer this over to your new wheel. So let's take this out, put this to the side. Okay, so now the only thing left, and this will vary from steering wheel to steering wheel depending on where the manufacturer got their core from. Their core may have this already attached. their core also may not have these in. Our core does not have the weight on the bottom attached, but it does have the springs. So depending on your core and depending on the manufacturer where they got your core from will determine whether or not you have to fight with getting these out of your existing steering wheel and into your new one or not, and whether you have to get this out and into your new steering wheel or not. So in this instance, I'll grab the core real quick. In Bobby's carbon fiber wheel, the core that they used did in fact already have the springs. It did not have the weights. So that means we're not gonna have to fight the springs, but we are gonna have to do the weights. Let's show them how to remove these clips anyways, because even though
we don't have to, someone else
doesn't mean that they might not have it. If you have to remove your springs, I was just giving it a test run to make sure that that worked. The last set I had to fight with pretty hard. But this set looks like they're not gonna fight me too much. But you're gonna wanna use, you know, a pair of picks, a pair of flatheads, something. What's up? And you're gonna wanna move the inside spring, and then you wanna get up top here and work on pushing your spring out. Once it you know, depresses from this top section, then you can work on pulling the spring. And then the same thing when you're transferring this over to the new steering wheel, you're gonna follow that same process essentially. You're gonna go in through here, right? And then you're gonna come in from the back and you're gonna fight that sucker up while pulling this tight. And then like that, and then it comes right back in. So that's not a life or death situation if your core does not come with the springs. You could probably just use your flathead, and I'll tell you that on my own steering wheel, I just use my flathead, but it does damage the bushing. It does damage the rubber, polyurethane, or whatever when you do so. So what I've tried to do since then is use like a 4mm quarter drive socket, and then just a 6-inch quarter drive extension for pressing them in and out. And so in this instance, what I'll do is get a little leverage. Okay, I'll put my 4mm up on the polyurethane part of the bushing here, and then if you look at my thumb here, Yusuf, I'm literally gonna try and create some separation here and push that rubber bushing down through as and I mean, you saw, literally I didn't even have to already push that one. And then do the same thing here as I'm giving it some pressure from the back. Try and get that, just like that. So we were able to remove it without damaging or cutting any of the rubber. So now let's get ready to transfer all this stuff over to the new steering wheel. First, we're going to start with the weight, because that was obviously the last thing that we removed. The goal is for those 4 blue bushings to come through those 4 holes, and we're just going to put down a good microfiber. We've got a Roush microfiber here, and we're just going to use that so that as we're working on our finished carbon fiber product, we're not damaging the face. So before you squeeze these in, I'm going to grab a little bit of WD-40, I'm going to squirt that on there, and then we'll push these through. I mean, they probably should slide in easy anyway, but I'm not going to go crazy with it, right? Just a little drop will do. Okay, and then we're going to set those little bad boys there, kind of line them up, and I'm going to use the same treatment. I'm going to use that 4mm on the 6-inch quarter drive here. We're just going to try and poke. Oh, get it back. I'm gonna try and poke the rubber through. That sounded like it went. Let's see. Flip it over, double check. Looks like all 4 came through. Okay, move on to the next step. Okay, so you've got your springs in, you've got your weight in. Next, we're gonna work on fishing our wiring harness in and then setting up our back plate. For setting up the wiring harness, if you remember, we had the 2 pieces that we removed while we were in the car that came in through the center. Oops, got stuck on our Roush microfiber. We're going to bring those in through the center. And then if you remember, we brought the larger clip was underneath the bottom bracket. The 2 smaller clips were in between the 2 brackets. We're going to do the same thing on this side. The 2 clips came through the middle bracket. The larger one came underneath the bottom bracket. So that's essentially where our wiring harness is going to lay. And we're going to flip it over and install our back piece. Okay, so these back pieces, they may vary from car to car. Again, in this instance, Bobby's car is a 6R80 car automatic with paddle shifts. So this is what his back piece looks like. Your back piece may vary. This may be like 2 pieces or something on a manual car, whatever, but it doesn't matter. The installation is still going to be the same. You just want to make sure that your back pieces all ready to go on. And you're gonna start by, you've got a couple of clips in each of the corners here, and you're gonna start by, I always center the bottom piece into those clips first. And then of course we're gonna work on, while attaching this, making sure that our wiring harness doesn't get pinched or doesn't get, you know, moved into the wrong location. And again, those same 2 studs there on the side are gonna go down into their hole. And we're making sure our 2 wiring harnesses are good there, and we're not pinching our wiring harness underneath the bracket there. And then we're gonna match this side up the same way. We've got our 2 in the middle, we've got our 1 coming out the bottom, making sure that it's not getting into any interference. And we're taking our studs, our plastic studs, and dropping them down into their hole. And again, I started with this here, but I always come back around and make sure, and as you can see, it's a good thing I do because this one started to come back out. So we just want to tuck those clips back into their resting place. We just want to go over it, make sure you have a really nice, snug, tight fit on the back side. Okay, so we're just going to work on installing these pieces in reverse order, essentially. If you remember, we had to remove the paddle shifter, so we're going to plug that in first. Okay, and then if you look on this paddle shifter, you've got a little hook, and so that's kind of essentially what it rides on the inside here of the plastics. And then you have to get this piece up here to line up for the little chrome guy. Okay, nice and slow. You don't want to run down crazy fast because you do have that small clip on the back side that is resting on the inside of there. So if you were to have that, let's say, pinched or tension on it on accident, and you ran this down really fast, it could snap that armature, and we don't want to have that happen for you. So get your armature in there and then just slowly work your chrome down. Okay, from there we're going to work on bringing in the top piece. If you remember, this side was the green to green connector, so you can't mess that up. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay. And then the bottom piece gets the large connector. We're going to go underneath here. Put that in there. Okay, so you just want to make sure that your wiring harness is all tucked inside your backing plate. You don't want it to be outside your backing plate. You don't want it to be pinched inside those corners there. So what you want to do is get your wiring harness in, get it all pushed down in there. If you have to pull on it from the back side, okay, and we're just going to slowly tighten this one in place. Okay. All right, so our paddle shifter is in, our bottom communication buttons are in. Next is the top side. We're going to rotate that over. Again, we're going to make sure our wiring harness isn't interfering with anything. We're going to set up our stands. And if you saw, there's 2 more studs here that have to go in just like on the backing plate did. And so we're going to make sure that those go in with some good pressure. Okay. All right, so we're going to put these back in, and it's going to be black, black, and chrome. And I did that from memory. And Bob Dog already confirmed for me off camera that I did that right, so. Whoa, boy, we loosening. Okay. Okay. All good, double check everything, make sure your wiring is still tucked in nicely, not pinched, no problems. Okay. Now we're gonna move on to the next side. Same thing, we're gonna start with our the armature and lining up that hole for the paddle shifter, and that gets a chromie. Armature's there. There we go. Something like that. Okay, that should be good. Same idea here, you're gonna wanna make sure that our 2 are good, and then our big harness comes underneath here. It's not interfering with anything, bada boom, bada bing. Okay, we're gonna move on, we're putting this fella, plug him in. Okay, that feather's gonna stand there. And remember, this one gets our long black one. So that's gonna go there. Okay, make sure that's all good. So it's a little loose there. Let me just double check, make sure it's all the way. Seems good. Okay, now we're gonna plug this feather in. Slide our black into the paddle shifter, gray into this fellow. Maybe the wrong way. Maybe I had it the wrong way. Oh, much better. Okay. Then we're just gonna rotate that feather. Oh, look, we got that stuck underneath the wiring harness. We didn't want that to happen. Okay. Whew, good. All right, so we're gonna line up our stand. Bada boom, bada bing. Put in our 2 clips on this side. All good. All good. And then at the end, we're gonna go around and clip and make sure that everything's fully together, like that. It gives you that good pop right there. Bada bing. Okay, and then we're just gonna install our hardware and keep moving. So we got our black one, black one, and the chrome one. Something like. Okay, so now our both sides are fully, everything is plugged in, all of our wires are tucked, all of our hardware is tightened. Now we can move on to the bottom piece, which that one gets 2 chromies, and then the top piece, which that gets 3 chromies, and we will be wrapped. Okay, so now we've got all that done. This piece we're just gonna slide in, right? We're gonna line it up. Again, same thing, it has those 2 tabs, and then you're gonna put the 2 chromies in up top here. Make sure those are good. All right, so now we're gonna work on the top section here. And if you remember very early on, I was showing you that I wanted the wiring harness to run right along the top of these 3 bolt holes. You can see that that is the case currently. It's exactly where it resides. That's exactly what we wanted to see. And then we're gonna set this feller up to attach, like so. Okay. Now in this instance, you may, if you're an ogre like me and you don't wanna fight it, just use your trusty little magnet. Try and get that down in there. If you get it started with your little screwdriver, it's even better. And again here, we're looking to make sure that our wiring harness isn't clipped or cut or any issues. Looks like it's pushed down in there nicely. Everything's gonna be good. Okay, let's try that with the other 2. Get that feather in there. So a little bit of patience, a little bit of cursing. And just to double check, we're gonna come around the back here and make sure that we have working. Looks like both of those are working. We're gonna make sure our backs are all nicely tucked in, and you see this is why I'm going over it, is because look at the bottom there. See how it's not quite all the way pushed into the bottom. So we're gonna make sure that that's all done. And I believe that that is all, folks. And just, right. Yep, good call, good call. Yep. That's a wrap. So she's ready to go back on the car. We'll obviously plug these back in. We'll obviously plug the airbag stuff back in, and we'll wrap this up in the car. Okay, so back in the car, obviously like we talked about before, we pulled these through, so these are gonna go back in that direction. We're gonna pull our airbag lines through the center here as well, and we're gonna hang on to those for later, right? We're gonna make sure our clock spring is still at the 12 o'clock orientation here, and we're going to pull our steering wheel in and line it up. Pull out your airbag lines so they're not in your way. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay. Get your 12 o'clock orientation. Now these airbag lines are fighting me for no reason. Hello? Fly? There we go. Okay. Alright, so now you have your 12 o'clock orientation. So with your clock spring at the 12 o'clock orientation, your harness can go in and install. Your airbag lines are going to be pulled through here. Again, you're just making sure that there's no interference. we're gonna install our bolt here to the steering column. Again, that's the 24 millimeter, and we're using our Milwaukee impact here. Give it a good ooga dooga gooch. Okay, and then we're gonna put our airbag back in. So again, as you recall, we had one up the top here, which is our black and red. Once that goes in, put your retainer clip back in. And then, like I said before, you're not gonna mess this up, so don't be scared. Your battery is disconnected, and it's really simple, yellow to yellow, black to black. So you're gonna take your yellow, your sideways, yellow to yellow, orange clip, black to black, orange clip, bada boom, bada bing. Now obviously you don't want to put this in upside down, so you want to make sure you have your orientation of your airbag correct. And then you're basically just lining this up to where it's going to force into those clips, the springs that you saw us use to remove it. And you heard it click on both sides there. So now your install is complete. We'll go out, we'll hook up the battery and make sure that all of our functions work. We'll turn the car on, double check, make sure all of our buttons work, and that'll be a wrap. I only did one on mine. It's still on, it's been 160 plus miles. Once you install your battery, come back to the car, put your car in accessory mode. I'm sure if you're like me and you've touched a bunch of stuff, you need to put your blinkers back where they belong and your wipers back where they belong and all that jazz. But we're going to, I guess we're gonna have to start the car to test all this stuff. Okay. Gauge mode, up, down, all that stuff working on this side. Let's check the radio. Radio's working on this side. Okay, once you've had your battery back installed, fire the car on, test all your buttons, make sure everything works, and the airbag didn't explode and hit you in the face, and you're good, then that is the finished install for your Galaxy Custom steering wheel. And Boost and Bobby, thank you for giving us your car today to test it out and install this. As you can see, like I said, he got the gloss carbon fiber just like my car. He went with the red stripe, red stitching. He also got the perforated leather. And again, I'm telling you, we'll get his review after a couple of days of driving it, but the number one thing is literally just the way this sucker feels in your hand when you're driving the car. So, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you then.